Welcome to Spinal Intelligence Floor Fundamentals. I'm Master Phil Can-Do, and we're here today to learn a method to improve your balance, to improve your mobility and flexibility, and to improve your posture system. All of these things are things that you can improve as you age. So I'm going to show you some different positions. I'm going to show you how to move your spine in relationship to itself and to the rest of your body. And I'm also going to teach you how to strengthen your spine in a bunch of different positions, interacting with gravity in many different ways. So have fun. This is a playful exploration of movements that we're doing. It may be challenging for you at times. Maybe you haven't got down on the floor in a while. And so I'm challenging you to do a bunch of things. We're actually going to be doing some childhood development things as well through this program. So find yourself a nice, comfortable mat that you feel comfortable getting down on the floor. Pay attention, please, to the details. Listen deeply to your body. Follow your breathing and let it be your guide. Okay? If you have any pain at any particular point, that's a sign from your body to listen to it. Not necessarily to stop, but maybe just to notice in a different way. So if you find at any particular point that some of these movements are causing you pain or discomfort, come back to this original position that I'm going to show you. So let's get right into it. This particular position is called constructive rest. This is my go-to for daily interaction with my spine and helping it reset itself, because it does need daily attention to build up the necessary connections to have a supple and strong spine. The reality of our lives now is that we spend a lot of time sitting and in, compromised positions often. And it dulls the sensory capabilities of your spine. So this is just all designed to wake up your spine, to show it where neutral is, to show it how to strengthen itself, and to do so in a safe, comfortable way so it's accessible to everybody. So come on along and play. Let's have you starting laying on your back. Okay, so we're going to start on our back in this sort of position, okay, where we're focusing on our spinal alignment. So if you lay down and this happens, that's an indication that you need a towel or something behind your head. No big pillows, you don't want this to happen. You want to keep your spine in a neutral position. So let's just start out by closing our eyes and taking a few deep breaths in this position. Place your hands in front of your hips so you can get an idea or an understanding of what's happening here in your pelvis. Sometimes what I do is I use a ball or a yoga block and place it between your knees so it maintains and helps you support your center. Sometimes when you don't have the ball, the tendency is for your legs to fall apart or your legs to fall in. This way allows your thigh bones to maintain themselves, also gives you a feeling of center. So, feet are connected to the floor, knees are bent in a comfortable position, hands are in the front of your hips. Now let's just take a few deep breaths. Just notice the curves of your spine. Notice how your spine is interacting with the floor. I always start out in this position. Starting out on your back on the floor gives you the necessary feedback from your spine, which is a sensory creature, of where it is in space. Okay, and you can notice and breathe and just connect to your spine. This position is great for relaxing the organs, giving your hips some space, also taking your deep abdominal muscles and allowing them to find a position where they can soften and relax and let go. I like hanging out in this position for at least 5 or 7 minutes before I move on. It just allows me to deeply connect to my spine and just to prepare it for what's coming. Remembering to breathe, making sure that you're relaxing your face and your teeth and your jaw, and just downloading everything that you need to download and just kind of melting into the floor and just taking some time out just to tune into your backside. So after we've spent some time in constructive rest, we're going to go back into this position laying on our back. And this bone is our sacrum, okay? So this is the bone that makes up your pelvis, and this is where your center of gravity sits. So we're going to practice just tuning in the beginning, moving from this bone. But you have to understand that this is where movement initiates for your spine. So as we go into certain movements like drawing our tail between our legs and bringing us into a posterior pelvic tilt, that's going to flatten out our lumbar spine, okay? And then also as we go into this movement, it's going to increase our lumbar spine because your fifth lumbar vertebra attaches to this guy here. So we're going to practice just finding neutral. And then we're also going to practice moving and what I call articulating the spine. So moving the vertebra one at a time so they get to notice and recognize each other. And we're going to do so super slowly with purpose, with the idea of improving the quality of flow. You may find that it might be a little bit ratchety. It may not move smoothly. That's an indication, right? Like, next time you move through that particular range that feels ratchety or, clumpy, sometimes you can find that the vertebrae like to stick together. Your job is to just slow it down, breathe, and just notice what happens when you slow it down. Because your body, the language of your body, is noticing differences in sensation. So we have to slow down to notice differences in sensation. That's why we're doing this so slow. And also, it makes it accessible to everybody to do this thing. So, we're going to come back down, laying on our back. Feel free to use the ball again or a yoga block. Okay? Again, it helps with managing your thigh bones. So we're going to close our eyes and we're going to bring our awareness into that sacrum again. So down into that center of our pelvis. And we're just going to take a few deep breaths right into that bone. So inhale into it. And exhaling. What I notice is when I inhale, naturally that tail wants to draw between my legs. And as I exhale, it wants to go back to neutral. So you may notice that, you may not notice that. This may be the first time you ever thought about breathing into one of your bones or potentially moving from that bone. So just play along with that. So as we inhale and as we exhale, we're just tuning into that sacrum, into that tailbone. Now, as we build on this, what we're going to do is, As we inhale, we're going to draw our tail between our legs, just slightly, just enough, and try to do it if you can without firing any muscles. It's going to be challenging for some people. Exhale, take it in the opposite direction. So now as we continue to increase the amplitude or how much we move, I'm going to get you to draw your tail between your legs, right? Which puts you into a posterior pelvic tilt, which flattens out your lumbar spine. And then as you exhale, you're doing your anterior pelvic tilt, which then is increasing your lumbar spine. So work within the range that's comfortable for you. Inhale. Exhale. And again, we're only playing within the range of our lumbar spine right now. So I want you to think about when you draw your tail between your legs, you're just looking to flatten out your lumbar spine. Once you feel like your lumbar spine is flat, which mine is right there, I'm going to exhale and go in the opposite direction. So this is important, just to take time to work on this initiation of this center of gravity known as your sacrum, and working it through a tilt where you're now interacting with your lumbar spine. So there, my lumbar spine is flat, and then I'm going to take it in the opposite direction and increase that curve. Okay? So again, don't rush through this. Inhale. Exhale. Good. And then after you're done, after you've worked through it, improve the quality of it. Again, we're not looking for perfection. We're just looking for an improvement in quality. Then come back to neutral. Now, we're going to build on that same movement, but now we're also going to include this part of our spine, which is our thoracic spine. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw our tail between our legs. Inhale. Once your lumbar spine is flattened, I want you to push through both feet equally, and I want you to come and lift up again, one vertebra at a time. Okay? You don't need to go all the way up this time. And then as you exhale, you're going to lay it back down from top to then bottom, to then your sacrum is sitting, to then anterior pelvic tilt. And we just keep increasing that amplitude. So we're drawing our tail between our legs, flattening out our low back. Once your low back is flat, push through your feet, lifting up one vertebra at a time, until eventually you end up in this neutral position. So no need to go way up here. This is not yoga class. This is just finding neutral here, okay? Head should be relaxed in this position. And then as we exhale, we're going to lay our vertebra down one at a time from top all the way down to the bottom. Got a nice adjustment there on my spine, a little pop, good. And then notice how now, as I'm engaging further, notice how now it's pulling my head. So now I'm actually engaging my whole spine. So inhale, drawing my tail between my legs, flattening out my low back, step one. Once I'm to the end range of my low back, I push through my feet, lifting up one vertebra at a time until I'm in neutral. Neutral bridge. Exhale from top to bottom, laying it down one at a time. Just noticing there's going to be certain ranges that feel ratchety and clumpy, and that's okay. Every time we go through this, we pour a little bit more awareness into that space and allow our body to notice how that sensation feels. And what you're going to notice is each time you do this, it's actually going to improve quite a bit, especially if you can slow it down. So we're inhaling, lumbar spine flattens out, slightly pushing through my feet equally, pushing up one vertebra at a time. And exhaling on the way down, laying from top to bottom, our vertebra onto the ground, onto this comfortable mat, all the way down, and then notice, ooh, as I go through and do my anterior pelvic tilt, that my head comes along for the ride, which is amazing. That's what we're looking for. So back to neutral. That is articulating your spine. So notice how all I was doing is just following my breath. All I was doing is just introducing each vertebra, each joint, each disc to one another. That's what the articulation is all about, just noticing how your spine interacts with one another. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to some strengthening. Strengthening happens from neutral. So this is our neutral position. And again, if you have to find that neutral position, here's how you do it. You draw your tail between your legs and you flatten out your low back. You go, my low back is flat. So that's not good. And then I go in the opposite direction. Oh, look, large curve, not good either. So just like Goldilocks, we're going to find something in between where our spine feels neutral. It may not feel normal because you may feel like this is normal because this is where you are. And I get that. So finding neutral is different than normal. So try your best to find neutral. So once we find neutral, take a few deep breaths. And what we're going to focus on here is we're going to focus on pushing through our feet equally to hover and lift that sacrum up off the floor. So as I inhale, I'm going to push through my feet equally, and I'm just going to lift my pelvis up off the floor just a bit. And as I exhale, here's the most important thing. I'm trying to stick the landing. So I'm trying to put it right back in the same position that I started. Here's the tendency for a lot of people. When they do this particular movement, they draw their tail between their legs. See how that flattens on my low back? And then they push up. Now you see how I've compromised my lumbar spine by engaging my glutes, tipping my pelvis back, and trying to power through it. What I'm suggesting is that because our spine needs to be strengthened in neutral, that's the shape we need to keep. Okay, so sticking the landing is making sure that you're in the same position as when you started. Okay, so I have a thing that I do where I think about lengthening out through my thigh bones, and I also think about my pelvis as like an elevator. And for me, that helps so I don't end up doing this thing. I also would advise you not to overfire your glutes, because if you overfire your glutes, that will also change the shape of your lumbar spine. So finding neutral, taking a deep breath in, lifting off, lengthening out through my thigh bones, lifting my pelvis up. So, just start with the hover, and then maybe each time that you do this, move up like 2 or 3%. Most importantly, you're coming down and you're sticking the landing, okay? So if you find yourself having to adjust yourself in between, keep working at it and realize that this will get better. So again, from neutral, inhale, lifting up, lengthening out through my thigh bones, coming up, hanging out in this neutral position. Slow on the way down, pushing equally through both feet and sticking the landing. So keep working at this. This is fundamental to all of the stuff that we're going to be doing after this, because it's really important to be able to find neutral and to move from neutral and to come back to this neutral and centered position, because it's going to help you with your squat, it's going to help you with your, anything that you have to do where you're trying to find center. This is going to help you find that neutral position of your lumbar spine. So practice the strengthening, do it until it gets better. No need for counting repetitions or doing sets of things. Just do it a few times each day to get better and to progress. Okay, so the next position is going to be the all fours position, or on our hands and knees. we're going to, again, we're going to practice the articulation. So we're going to practice interacting with gravity differently. We're going to do something which is called a cat and a cow, which you've probably heard of before. And we're going to work through that to get our spine and our vertebra and our discs to interact with one another. Okay, that's the first thing we're going to do. Then we're going to come back into a neutral position, and we're going to practice hovering our hands without shifting. So doing some anti-rotation exercises, and we're also going to do so with our hips. So come on by and spend some time with me on your hands, reading wrists and knees. At any point, if you feel uncomfortable, come back, get off them, shake your hands, come back into it. So wrists are underneath your shoulders, knees are underneath your hips, head's in a neutral position. You don't want to collapse in, you want to be nice and strong. So start out in this neutral position and breathe. So finding neutral is as simple as tipping your pelvis forward this way and then tipping your pelvis this way and then finding something in between. So don't rush through that important position where you're like, hey, okay, I'm either like this or maybe you're like this, right? Either one of those is not neutral. Neutral is where for me, there's a little bit of tone in my belly where I'm not doing the cow, or I'm not over exaggerating and doing a cat. Okay, so finding neutral is super important. Once you find neutral, here's what we're going to do is we're going to practice articulating our spine. So I'm going to inhale, drop my belly, lift my head just a little bit. So don't jam your neck. Keep your head in a neutral position, okay? Or just up, just a smidge, right? As we exhale, you're going to draw your chin towards your chest. You're going to tuck your tail into the cat. Inhale. Exhale. So do these as slow as you need to, coordinating the breath, the full breath with the full movement. Exhale. Drawing your belly up towards your spine. Inhale. Exhale. So work through that, and whenever you need to, come back, get off your wrists a little bit, give them a little shake. We're going to move on to the next thing. So now what we're going to do is set up in the same position, wrists underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. Finding our neutral position again. So if you have to tuck your tail and do this, then that's fine. But find that neutral position where you feel strong, where you feel like there's a little bit of tone in your belly. And from this position, without shifting, okay, so this is anti-rotation, remember. What we're going to do is I'm going to take my left hand and I'm going to hover it. And replace it. I'm going to do the same with my right. Inhale. 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 And keep repeating that until you feel relatively stable, that you're not twisting or you're not torquing. Again, come back, relax your wrists from time to time. All right. Now, exact same position. We're going to do the same thing, except for now we're going to use our hips instead of our shoulders and hands. So from this position, slide your foot back. So notice how I didn't twist or torque my pelvis in any sort of fashion, okay? My toes are engaged with the ground, and most importantly, my heel is pointed up towards the sky. So don't let it fall out this way or don't let it fall out this way. Now, we're going to lift. But what I want you to do is I want you to lift from here, from the back of your glute, from your hip, and not from your foot. So it looks like this. So if you're lifting from your hip, it looks like this. If you're lifting from your foot, it's going to look like this. So try to avoid that by pointing your heel up towards the sky, off your toe, right? And then what you're doing is you're lifting up from the back of your hip. So now you're doing anti-rotation. So I'm just going down, pausing on my toe, come back up. Good. Now bring our foot back and knee back. I'll slide the other side out. Notice no twisting. Notice the heels up towards the sky. I'm going to lift. And down. And inhale up. And exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. So you get the idea. Anti-rotation. You don't have to do a lot of them, just enough to turn that core on that you don't feel like you're twisting or torquing your limbs in any sort of fashion. Amazing. Give that a try. You probably don't spend a lot of time on your hands and knees. Make sure that you're gentle on your wrists and you support them. The next thing we're going to do is what I call tummy time. So this is stuff that you did when you were a child, when you were extending your spine and working on rolling over and turning your head. So as we get older in our lifestyle, we're doing all this stuff now, we need to really focus on our posterior chain or the back side of our body to engage it and to distribute the effort through the entire backside. So that's what these exercises are all about. So if you start feeling any pressure within one part of your vertebra or your backside, then that's an indication that you're overfiring and working too hard in that area. So really work at trying to, put the effort over the entire spine. That may involve pushing less through the tops of your feet. That may involve a whole bunch of things. But the reality is, it's up to you to redistribute that effort. So, come on down. And what we're going to do is we're going to start on our bellies like so. And we're going to put our arms in what I call the cactus position. And the tops of your feet are going to be engaged with the floor. So this is step one, is pushing slightly through your feet. Notice when I do push slightly through my feet that it lifts my kneecaps off the floor, which then pushes and anchors my pelvis. So this is a really important piece, like I was saying, for if you push too hard through your feet, you're going to feel a whole lot of buildup in your low back. And so to avoid that, again, just like Goldilocks, just the right amount of pressure is important. So sometimes just starting out in this position and just engaging with your feet, lifting your kneecaps off, and engaging your pelvis is enough. And as we build upon that, what I'm going to get you to do is inhale and lift the backside of your heart up towards the sky. Exhale on the way down. Do this a couple times. Inhale. You'll probably feel a little bit of pressure going through your hands and forearms, and that's okay at this particular point. It's going to help you, but don't rely on pushing through your hands. Really activate the muscles on both sides of your spine to get them to do the work. Notice how my head stays in neutral. Good. So now that we've warmed that up a little bit, let's bring our hands more to our shoulders, drawing our shoulder blades more down and back. And from this position, we're going to do the exact same thing. Slight engagement through the tops of the feet, right? Lifting the kneecaps, all right? Pushing the pelvis into the floor. What I'm going to do is I'm going to inhale and exhale. So for me, my hands are just here. I'm not pushing through my hands. And I recommend not pushing through your hands because it'll probably look like this. All right, and now you're not using your back muscles. You're getting ready for a push-up. Okay, so inhale, lift the backside of your heart up. And if you find your tendency is to push in your hands, I encourage you now to hover your hands and do the same thing. Inhale. 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 Building upon the same movement. If you need to take a break, push back into child's pose, right? Or some position of comfort for you. But eventually you're going to find yourself back down in this position, engaging through the tops of your feet, lifting your kneecaps, which engages your pelvis. Now my palms are hovering, palms facing down towards the floor. Same thing. Inhale. Inhale. Try to relax your teeth, relax your jaw. Don't be using your head and neck to do all this work. Do it until you feel like, oh yeah, all those muscles are firing on both sides of my spine. They feel good, they feel strong, they feel activated, and come down and just have a little relax. Wiggle your body from side to side. Yeah, that's tummy time. Tummy time is super important, like I said, for engaging that posterior fascial chain or the back side of your body and helping you regain your balance, help you improve your posture, and also, most importantly, help you regain your mobility from this probably posture. Okay? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to get into a sideline position. And this position is where we get to challenge our balance in a safe way and have some fun with this, because this can be super challenging. If you've never done this before, this is going to be some fun, because you're going to realize, wow, one side is completely different from the other. And wow, I never thought about doing this position before. So this is the stuff that you do before you practice your balance and stuff standing on your feet. This just helps be safe, and most importantly, it just allows you just a different way of interacting with gravity. So let's start laying on our side. Okay, nice and straight. So I put my hand out in front of me here, okay, and I stack my feet and my legs. And I have my arm up overhead so I can relax my head under my bicep, and I'm looking straight ahead. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick up both of my legs to see where my hip and my pivot point is on my hip. And then I'm slowly gonna lay it back down. Now, once you're in that position and you feel comfortable, maybe you have to keep your hands here. Maybe you choose to take your hand and place it here. My experience is this is where a lot of the movement's gonna happen if you feel unstable. So it's good to put your hand here in your low ribs to give you some feedback, okay? Now from this position, what you're gonna do is you're gonna pick your top leg up. Now this is going to be challenging for some of you and your glutes, but just play along and do your best, okay? So start in this position and just notice what you notice in this position, okay? Just notice all the firing and all of the energy that's happening just by doing this seemingly simple movement and exploration. So now from this position, what I want you to do is I want you to start moving through just your ankle. So point your toes away, bring your heels away. Point your toes away, and then heels away. So we're just working that ankle, working the flexibility in that ankle. You're going to find that that's going to create some instability. Now, once you get good at that, keep adding on. So as you flex, like my ankle's flexed now, I also want you to flex your hip. So bring your hip forward in space a little bit, find that pivot point. And then what I want you to do is move in the opposite direction and point your toe and extend your hip. Woo, right? And then when you do that, you're like, wow, cool balance point, right? Inhale, flex. Exhale, extend. Inhale, flex. Exhale, extend. So kind of keep playing with that and have some fun. You're going to fire your glutes a lot. They're going to get super energized, maybe tired. And then we just shift around and do the opposite side. So again, nice and long through the body. Lengthen the arm, lengthen the body, push your hand into the floor, get yourself straight like a board, okay? And then relax your head onto your bicep, look straight ahead, lift both legs up, set them back down, take your hand away from the floor if you choose, put it on your low ribs, and start just by breathing. And notice if there's any differences between each side, which I guarantee there will be. And then at your leisure, I want you to pick your leg up, which is going to engage your glutes, right? And it's going to challenge your balance a little bit. And then from that position, once you're happy with that, point your toes away, point your heels away. Point your toes away, point your heels away. Keeping that breath nice and slow and steady. And then once you get good at this ankle movement, keep your ankle flexed. Flex your hip, bring it forward. Point your toes, extend your hip. Woo! Flex your ankle, flex your hip. Point your toes, extend your hip. Inhale. Exhale. Relax your face if you're holding it and doing funny things with your face. Feel free just to soften it up a little bit. Relax your jaw. Come back to neutral whenever you want to, right? Maybe practice dropping it and picking it up a little bit. No need to go way up. Just keep it neutral, right? And then when you're tired and you're done, bring it back down. And so, after you do the balance exercise, I always like going back to measure. I do a lot of measuring because a lot of my background is in yoga. If anybody's ever done yoga, the reason why yoga works so well is you go into class, you roll out your mat, you lay on your mat, and you notice what you notice. You're like, yeah, my breath is really shallow today, my low back feels funny, or whatever the thing that comes up. And then you do this practice where you're focused on your breath, you're focused on purposeful movement, and then at the end, you spend some time in this delicious position called Shavasana. And if you're not sure what that is, that's just basically lying on your back and noticing. Because I guarantee you're going to notice something different after you do that. So starting in this position, again, I just bring my thumbs up over my head and just kind of notice. So I do a lot of, feel free to measure like this in between every exercise if you want to. Like really to figure out which one of these movements and explorations are really helpful for you and your body. I find measuring before and after are super helpful because again, your body learns by noticing differences in sensation. So if you can direct your mind to notice differences in sensation, then you're going to end up with a positive outcome. All right, and that's why we're doing this stuff, to build up the intelligence of our spine so it will support us, so we can age with grace and with ease, and we can have the balance and mobility to do all the things that we want to do in our life. And then afterwards, you can just relax and just marinate yourself in all of the delicious hard work that you did. Taking a few deep breaths. And maybe for some of you, because maybe for some of you this is uncomfortable, you're going back to your constructive rest position where you're finding this ease and you're finding the neutral in your spine and you're relaxing your abdominal organs and your deep abdominal muscles and softening your hips, this may be the position for you. So you probably noticed that there are no set repetitions or no sets of anything. This is not an exercise program. This is a purposeful awareness program where you're learning to interact with your spine in a different way. And really what you need to understand is that it happens over time. So you have to do these things over and over again to get the results, right? And nothing like something gentle and easy to do that you only have to do a few of every day to keep yourself in that alignment, right? Whether you're working out hard or whether you're completely imbalanced because you're swinging a hammer all day or you're working at a computer, I guarantee that if you're feeling stress and or some sort of pain in your body, especially chronic pain, that is because of some sort of imbalance that's happened in your musculoskeletal system, or what I like to call my meat suit. So this body is designed to be in balance from side to side. This is just giving us a center line in which to define, so then we can actually use our limbs equally like they were designed. So give this a try, whatever it looks like in your schedule. I look forward to hearing your feedback, and just keep trying. Keep every day just doing that thing that brings you more into alignment, more into balance, and more into your center. Thanks so much for tuning in. Peace.